right, Shi Davidi time. What's up, brother? How we doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. I'm surprisingly okay for being back after missing the last 10 days of work. Yeah, we're rolling. We're in this thing. It was actually, now I'm thinking about it, it's a good day to be back, that there's all these things going on.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously the Blue Jays had that little wrinkle thrown into their trade deadline last night with Bo Bichette. And certainly a lot of different considerations going on right now.
Okay, so let's just start with this. What's your understanding of the tone around Bo Bichette right now? Because, yeah, gathering information, I said at the outset, doesn't sound like the greatest thing.
No, but I think it's generic enough that the Blue Jays are trying not to tip their hand just before the trade deadline. Because, why would you? I figured that they would just say the exact minimum and give as little detail as possible, which is exactly what happened. Again, because there's no incentive for you to put out more information than that and give it to other teams. But I think there's a lot of concern, and talked to Vladdy last night, and he was pretty worried. He called Bo their best hitter right now. Chris Bassett called him their best player. You think that, when you're talking about that kind of impact, there's obviously a ton of concern. And, Bo is super tough for him to come off the field. It's something that's not good. So, maybe the Blue Jays can dodge a bullet here. They've been remarkably fortunate from a health perspective all season long. But this one has a chance to be big.
Do you think that if it is big, it would actually materially change their deadline plan?
I don't know if it necessarily materially changes your plan, but I think they at least kicked around Tim Anderson to some degree. I'm sure that Paul DeJong came up during their talks with the Cards in some way, shape, or form. Does that maybe, if you're kind of on the fence on that, saying, well, we could do this, maybe we don't need to do this, maybe that tips the scale. So, yeah, you know what? Let's backfill. Let's have that here on our bench, and we'll figure out if this is a short-term thing for Bo, we'll figure out what we do with the depth after the fact. But I think the clear need is an offensive piece, and it's kind of funny. I've been kind of thinking about it. You'd ideally like somebody with some power, and the way somebody framed it to me the other day was, it doesn't have to be a power bat. It just has to be someone with a track record of driving in runs. And because that's really the gap. And obviously power is certainly one way to drive in runs, but you want somebody who's good situationally, because that's really a way to impact the lineup. And so, I think that's probably what you're looking for. And do you want a little bit more if Bo's going to be out for a while? Sure. But, I think you were, given the way the roster is constructed, you were trying to find something up the food chain no matter what.
Yeah, it's funny. I had this conversation with Shulman a couple of weeks ago when I first kind of started kicking around Teoscar. And he was cool with it, but he did mention that, he liked the profile of a guy that was a little bit more of a grinded-out veteran at the plate, right? That was able to get on in a variety of different ways. And that, it's a little, Teo being the all-or-nothing type maybe profiles a bit too much with some of the rest of this team. And that, maybe you aren't just looking for that power bat. Before I even just kind of get into some of those names, what do you make of the runners in scoring position thing? Because I don't think I've actually talked to you about this. And last night, they're 0 of 10 again. They're 14 of their last 74. Listen, you're a smart guy. You follow this game for a long time. What do you... I know it's always never one thing, right? But if you had to put your finger on the thing about this team, it's beyond just bad luck. Where do you start?
I mean, there is, I don't know that there is an answer, right? Everybody's been searching for this thing all year long. If there was something there, it wouldn't. And baseball is dumb sometimes, right? It just doesn't make sense. And this is one of those things where it's you have this team that's doing all these things right, and then suddenly in these situations, it's not playing out for them. I mean, it just doesn't really compute. And so I don't know, the whole argument, does clutch exist? Does it not exist? Is clutch really just guys able to keep their heart rate the same pace? I think all that's in there a little bit. One theory I've heard is that maybe some of the issues driving in runs early in the season kind of put a bit more weight on guys, and then it kind of snowballs, and then it, over the course of time, it starts becoming a thing and becomes harder to let go. I'm sure it's like a million little things as opposed to sort of one big thing. But I think you look at the fact that this is a group that puts innings together, puts pressure on teams, you have to trust that eventually it turns. But again, sometimes it doesn't because baseball can be dumb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been some guys that have been pretty disappointing bats this year for them that they've missed, and some of the depth is hurt, which I think has been a little papered over, like the Varsho, the Varsho part of this. Kirk struggles for a long time, how important of a bat that he was supposed to be. Even just getting out of the gate, how Belt struggled and then turned it around and was one of their better players. Vladdy just not having a season that we expect him to have. But if you think about the clutch part of it, which, I'm a bit of a believer in, I don't think that I think it's the way that you mentioned it, where guys are able to maintain their level. These guys are professionals. There's a lot of vets in there that can hit. They're probably fine. But if you do think that there's a decent element of, a psychological impact at this point, doesn't it make the case even stronger to say, hey, go out and get a bat that isn't just going to be, a pinch hit guy. Go out and get someone like a Teoscar Hernandez who is going to hit for you often and in the middle and maybe change the complexion of your group.
Yeah, sure. But, the one thing you're going to keep in mind is, this is a really tight market for hitters.
Yep.
Right? Who's the best offensive player that's moved so far? Carlos Santana?
Yeah.
And Carlos Santana could have been, potentially a fit in some ways, although positionally it's not ideal. Mm-hmm. But there just aren't a lot of bats that have moved so far. And I expect some of them to go, it makes sense for if you're a selling team and you've got a bat to hang on all the way down to the deadline and sort of drive up interest because everybody wouldn't mind having a little bit more thump in their lineup. Mm-hmm. So I do think that's tough, but yeah, in an ideal world, sure. I think the Blue Jays, they feel like a lineup that could use one more major threat in it, mm-hmm. right? And when they made the initial Teoscar deal last year, you look into the lineup, you're like, okay, well, if, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is still a part of it, then, they're still going to be okay because there's the kind of hitter that he is, and someone who's able to hit all different kinds of pitching and can adjust to different approaches. Last year was probably an aberration for him due to the wrist. And when I talked to him at the All-Star game, he certainly kind of made the point saying that he had to make all kinds of adjustments last year because he was dealing with the wrist thing. But, then you lose Lourdes Gurriel Jr. as well. And, mm-hmm. Varsho comes in, Belt comes in, and, they've had moments, but like you mentioned, Belt got off to a slow start, but you haven't kind of replaced that power in quite the same way. Mm-hmm. That's when the lineup got a little bit lighter. And so if in the ideal world, you can get someone who's another player for the other teams to think about, Teoscar Hernandez certainly would be that. But again, I think it's going to be hard to get him because a lot of teams are going to want him.
Yeah. Okay. So it is going to be hard for them to get him. And yeah, I think that you outlined this well, even in your piece about Hicks. And I listened to you on Blake's show yesterday too, and talking about, hey, this is the market. It's a really tough one right now. But given, I'm trying to think about how to phrase this. Given where they're at right now in the competitive cycle and the fact that they've made a move like that, where, it's a bit of a deviation from their profile, right? To give up that much control for a relief pitcher. Someone who's not under control. It's just like, that's not a Atkins or Pyro. We go, oh, that's classic them. It's pretty contradictory to that. Does that give you a sense right now in terms of when they're looking at those kinds of bats that maybe they're going to deviate from that profile further? Or is your sense more that, hey, they did their one move like that, they're not going to get reckless and start to make more in the same vein?
Well, what's interesting, and I wasn't able to kind of totally pin this down yesterday, but it sure sounded like the Blue Jays had their offer on the table for the Cardinals, and the Hicks deal got done when the Cardinals decided. It wasn't that the Jays upped the offer to get it done. And the Cardinals were like, yeah, this is the package that we want. We're going to do this. And so that approach, I would expect it to be similar, where they've got probably some pretty good indications to teams about where they're going to go. And, the clubs may have to decide, and perhaps they could sweeten it down the road, or, if they had to before the deadline arrives. But the Blue Jays typically have been teams kind of in trades with, they're kind of like, this is our price, and we'll do, this is what we'll do. And if that's good, great, and if not, we'll move on. And so if that's sort of the model, I'm not sure. There is some deviation in terms, like, we haven't seen them do this for a rental player, but they're not going to stretch themselves to a point where they're uncomfortable. So, I think they probably got a sense of where it's going to go, what it's going to take, and what they're willing to do, and how that all combines. We'll find out pretty soon.
So the last show that I did before taking my holiday, I had JP Ricciardi on, and I asked him about the pressures that you feel as a front office when you know that, it's starting to heat up when we're talking about job security. And it's not even just about you, it's about the people that are underneath you and the staff that you employ, and knowing that, okay, if you're short of these moves, that it might impact what happens to you. What is your understanding today of, like, how secure Ross Atkins is, like, heading into this deadline?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a significant factor right now. To me, when you're looking at it, the more significant factor is where this roster is, right? Because if you think about it, maybe not from a record perspective, but from a talent perspective and guys having great years, really 2021 might have been, in some ways, the best team, right? You've got Vladdy and Simeon going 2-3 in MVP. You got Cy Young and Robbie Ray. You add Jose Barrios. You just have a ton of guys. Bo and Teo are having all-star seasons. And they obviously they added Barrios that deadline, but they needed more bullpen help. They didn't get it. You didn't use that group, so you lost a bit of control. And then come back last year, they're a little bit different. Bo and Vladdy aren't having the same years. You don't have Simeon. And again, they make the playoffs, but they don't get anywhere. And then this year, okay, so they're better defensively. They're pitching more effectively, but they're not hitting quite the same way. And you're going to lose potentially four regulars from this roster, from this lineup in the offseason, plus Hyunjin Ryu. So, you're going to have about $70 million coming off the books to work with. But that window is starting to close, and there's only 2 more years of Bo and Vladdy unless you extend them after that. So to me, that's the pressure point. Like, this window that a couple of years ago seemed like was going to be able to last for a really long time, it's starting to shorten up. So you have to leverage every opportunity, and you've got Matt Chapman and his elite defense at third base right now. You've got Kevin Kiermaier having a great resurgent season. You've got Whit Merrifield performing at an all-star level. You've got Brendan Belt having a really nice year. Those things are going to be hard to replicate in 2024. And then can you get all that health in your pitching staff again the year after? There's just a lot of questions. So I think that, to me, is what's urgent in the moment, more so than some of the other stuff.
Man, the 2021 thing is so hard to look back on. And I hate doing this because I got in so many arguments at the time about it because I was a huge Semien guy. But it really does stick out, the throw against the Tigers. And it's just like, what happens if he makes that throw, and the Jays make the playoffs? And you can make it a million different ways, but that's just the one that sticks out. And that team just was getting hot at the right time. They had real momentum. And now looking back, it's like, damn, that might have been the group. And the window changing and the $70 million stuff, it's like, that's all well and good, but that $70 million can evaporate pretty quickly given all of the roster needs they have. And you look around baseball, it's like, how the hell are they going to replace Chapman? It's been a up and down season for him. There's been some frustrating moments, I know, for people, but like, you look internally, and I don't know if they want Addison Barger starting at third base for them next season, and like, the other free agent options at that position are pretty paper thin, which leads you to the question of being like, okay, you're doing another trade? Well, you're already pilfering from your prospect pool. Like, yeah, 2021 was like, man, the window's long and everything's happening here, and you got the budget and the farm system is loaded, and it's crazy that, you blink an eye or you bat your eyes for a second and you're looking at this and, we're having this conversation about, hey, this window is is a couple years from closing and it's already really urgent with this group. That's why sports, man, is like, don't treat I think this is probably a lesson for people when we look forward to the next time there's a team like the 2021 group. Okay, so back to the bats, though, with that urgency. And you mentioned it, that the prices are going to be high for some of these guys and that the market is pretty thin for it. But have you heard some names that these guys are at least interested in? I know that they're probably like checking in on everybody, but if you had to put some front runners out there as to like who you think is most likely to be a Toronto Blue Jay by the end of the day, what are some names that you're hearing?
Honestly, I don't have that specific, and there's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of things, or suggestions, things people think the Blue Jays should do. In terms of what exactly their pref list looks like, I don't know. And, I don't know that it's out there for a lot of teams. I think the reality is there's so few options that I think teams are trying to be as guarded as they can be right now, to not tip their hands to other clubs, again, because the options aren't there. But, I think they're, in terms of potential interesting guys that are on the market, someone like a Tyler O'Neill with St. Louis is intriguing, and Adam Duvall with the Red Sox, depending on what they decide to do. That's somebody who's proven, who doesn't shrink in big moments and has performed on high stages. I think that to some degree, that's the type of guy they need. Everybody knows Tommy Pham's out there, is expected to move, and just that's kind of the group you're picking from. Then can you do something a little bit more creative in some way, shape, or form if you're going to get perhaps a little bit more aggressive? So I think in a lot of ways, like Teoscar Hernandez is, in some ways sort of the ideal fit. You know him, he knows you. He comes back in, it's sort of seamless. I think given what he's been able to do in the past, that the players would be excited to have him back again, but it's a competitive market, and and the Mariners are weird too, right? All of a sudden they're like 3.5 games out. Like, do they really want to dismantle everything at this point? So, you never know with Jerry Dipoto. Yeah, it seems like yes, but Jerry Dipoto, this is someone who can do all kinds of things, all kinds of wild things. So it's a really fascinating situation. And again, the Blue Jays got their return for Teoscar Hernandez. They're going to be in a rush to sort of give all that back in a trade in terms of from a value perspective.
Yeah, the other part of it too, I don't know if this is just dumb guy thought, but if I'm the Mariners, I'm going to give you Teoscar Hernandez back. You have to pay a premium. Like the optics of that, if you're Jerry Dipoto and you trade for Teoscar, your team misses the playoffs. Your group just sold the Blue Jays uniforms in your team shop like a week ago. Pretty embarrassing stuff. The connection with the Blue Jays, like I was just in Seattle. I was walking around town. I was in the bars watching some of these games. Seattle sports fans are not super in love with the Jays right now. Like, I would say that they're not super popular and that they're not like welcoming them down there going, yes, the Blue Jays in town. We're so grateful that they're here. I would have to believe that Dipoto, of course, you're going to do the best thing for your club. Jays have the best offer, whatever. But there has to be a little point of pride returning him to Toronto, knowing that, yeah, some people are going to look at this trade and go, yeah, you guys won this thing. That's a good job by you. Similarly almost to the Hicks trade, where people go, don't worry, you're definitely going to win the war battle here. You can't take back, like, I would imagine anyways, completely speculative pieces for a guy like Teo from the Jays.
Yeah, ultimately, it's what's the best offer, right? And I get the optics piece, and yeah, you're right. The Jays fans in Seattle for a little, it was kind of a neat thing. I think it was a curiosity. It got a little fun. And
they hate it.
The past couple of years, it's definitely turned. Like you could really feel it last year, where it was starting to be something that they resented. And again, tough spot for Seattle because your baseball team, you like to make money.
Yeah, money's good.
You want you want to get as much money as possible from the people who want to supply it. But it was something that was tolerated to something now that is, like you said, resented, I think is a good word for it. So sure, I think that exists. But if that's a factor in your trade deliberations, and it's not just like, what's the best talent for me here, that's a sort of a bad way to do things.
I would just think it's more of a all things being equal, or things being, within a couple percentage points, that you'd go, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to do that to the fan base. Like, one of those things, right? Not the Jays are offering something so much better, and you as a group are like, yeah, like we're going to do something spiteful. But just, it's got to be at least worth a percent, in my brain. It's got to be worth 2% even, if I'm going to go that far. I just want to go back one sec, though, to Tyler O'Neill, because he's a super intriguing guy, too. And, yeah, you threw his name just in the mix here, and he's someone that I've talked to a lot with people. And, yeah, he's not a free agent until, 2025, I want to say? There's one more year of control?
Yeah. One more year after this
one more year after this one, right? Okay, so there's at least a little bit of control. You have a bit of an understanding of what it's going to look like for your team next year. Canadian guy, obviously. Someone who gets the Canadian thing, too. Like, obviously represented the country, and I've spoken with him. He's super, super proud guy, would clearly love to play here. But, yeah, 28, also a weird year. Like, got off to the start where, him and his manager got into it because he said he wasn't, like, trying hard enough or something like that. I can't. It was something like that, right? He called him out for his...
It was a base running thing, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, whoa. And then he shot back and was like, I'm not the guy that doesn't try. I was like, yeah, it seems right. Look at his physique. I think he's a trier. I think this guy likes to try. What do you think a price like that would be for someone who, maybe isn't as high up in terms of the impact of a Teo, but has the control?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about him is that he could potentially have some impact, right? If you get him in a good spot. What's tough is when you're making acquisitions at the deadline, you don't want a project, right? Because if you make a move for someone and then they don't perform, what you've actually done is made your team worse, right? And the Blue Jays have tried that route a little bit a couple times. You think about like Brad Hand in 21. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the throw from Simeon. You think about the couple games that Brad Hand let get away, and Brad Hand. In some ways, that's just as painful, maybe even more significant. So
way more. And I'm sorry that I just completely had pushed that out of my mind. Until you brought that back up. And every once in a while, because he's still around, you'll see him, and I'm like, oh my God, no, that's flashbacks.
Yeah, I didn't mean to trigger you in that way, but
no, I didn't want that. I hate that trade.
The thing about Tyler O'Neill is that, like, when he's healthy and he's right, he can be a pretty impact guy, and so it's an interesting kind of move. It would be more sort of a platoony kind of move, although you can certainly play him against right-handers. He's an absolute gamer, and I do think that he'd absolutely love playing in Toronto. I think he'd be he has the type of mentality where he'd be. The Canadian thing can be difficult for some guys because you become a focal point for anything Canada related in the market. But I think he'd be equipped to handle that. I think the type of determination he showed to play for Canada in the World Baseball Classic when he initially got a health rejection and he worked with the Cardinals and went through the entire process to make sure that he could play. That's a pretty significant kind of dedication, and that's the kind of player that he'd be. But again, look, there's another year of control. There's some value there. It's somebody who's been either a Gold Glove finalist or Gold Glove winner, so he can defend as well. He can play all three outfield spots. Like, there's a lot to like there. So, and the market doesn't have a lot of hitters. So, I think you'll see a lot of different things kind of play out, and teams are going to do probably okay for their hitters in terms of return.
Yeah, I know you. I know you're going to hate this question, but you know me, I'm a gambling man. Over under Jays moves today, 1.5.
Ooh,
you have to pick.
It's right on the line. I can see sort of two moves, sort of maybe one that's a little bit bigger and one that's maybe a little bit more complementary. But I wouldn't. I think it's just barely over.
Okay, so you're saying the over, but it's like, the over's like minus 115.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, you're set just right. I think in terms of a bar, I think that's. I'd be very surprised if we saw like 3 or 4 trades.
Yeah. But well, that would be 3 total. So yeah, it'd be 2.5 would have been the line of Jay's deadline moves because Hicks obviously counts. So yeah, overall it would have been 2.5, and we're sitting there and we're liking the slight over. All right, Shi, thank you for answering that. I thought that you were going to be like, I don't know, I hate this question, but no, you played along right away. It was good. I loved it.
I do hate the question.
Yeah,
but,
I know you do.
It's deadline day, and you're just back. So
yeah,
I'm not
thank
going to
you.
be difficult for you.
You're forgiving. That's a nice guy. Hey, Shi, thanks for coming on today, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. Talk to you soon.
See you, pal. There goes Shi Davidi.